Whether you're looking at the Bulletin from Avalanche.ca or using the Avalanche Canada app, the first thing that you're going to see is a map of all the forecast regions. Now I'm going to zoom into the South Coast right here. And in this area, we've got three main forecast regions. The first being the South Coast. This includes the North Shore Mountains like Seymour and Cypress. We've also got the Sea to Sky Bulletin right here. This forecast region includes the north bits of Squamish, as well as the area surrounding Whistler. And then we've got the South Coast Inland Bulletin. And on the north of this region, we've got the Duffy Lake area. Down here in the south, we have the Coquihalla. And at the very far south, this region also includes Manning Provincial Park. Now, for this example, I'm going to run through the South Coast Inland Bulletin. To look at a specific region, you simply click on it. You'll get this dialog box popping out to the side here. If you want, you can expand this to full screen mode. So right now, this forecast is for Friday, and it was released on the Thursday. New forecasts come out at around 4 or 5 o'clock each day. The very beginning of this forecast starts with a very quick synopsis about what the current issues are out there. The other thing that can be included in this synopsis is some travel advice. And that travel advice doesn't always pertain to the avalanche hazard. Sometimes it'll pertain to other hazard that might be out there. Moving down from there, we get 3 days of an avalanche forecast. And within each of those days, we get the avalanche danger for the alpine, the tree line, and below tree line. Possible danger ratings could be low, moderate, considerable, high, or extreme. Click the link in the corner to learn more about each danger rating. Scrolling down from there, we have the travel and terrain advice, which gives you some key information about how to safely maneuver through the mountains on these particular days. Next, we click on the Problems tab, and that's going to give us the specific avalanche problems for this forecast region and this particular day. Each problem will have the specific elevation that it pertains to. In this case, this problem is only in the alpine, as well as the specific slopes. In this example, this storm slab problem is located on the west to northeast north, all the way through to the southeast slopes. It does not apply to the south and southwest slopes. The probability of this avalanche problem is possible, and the size is ranging from size 1, kind of getting close to size 2. And for me, anytime that I'm dealing with half sizes, I always round that up just to be extra cautious and extra conservative. So I would say that these could get up to size 2. Then you've got a little bit of travel advice for the specific avalanche problem that you're looking at. You want to pay special attention to any persistent or deep persistent slab problems that are listed in your bulletin. Since 1996, where the data was available here in Canada, 76% of avalanche fatalities have happened when the bulletin has specified that there is a persistent or deep persistent slab problem. This is a great example of why these are challenging avalanche problems to deal with. The probability is unlikely, but when we look at the size, this is getting to a size 3 avalanche. It's a low probability, but high consequences. And again, we want to pay special attention to these problems. Next, we click on the Details tab. And the very first thing that we get here is the avalanche summary. We'll get a synopsis of various avalanches that were observed, and sometimes we'll even get links to those reports in the Mountain Information Network. The Mountain Information Network are these blue dots that appear on the maps, and these are reports that users have added of various observations. Below that, we're going to get the snowpack summary. Depending on your education level, this is probably going to be the most complicated part of the bulletin. And one of the goals of an AST1 course is to make sure that everybody feels confident when it comes to reading the snowpack summary. So if some of this doesn't make sense now, that's okay. The goal of the AST1 course is to build your confidence, especially when it comes to this aspect of the bulletin. Now, one thing with this example is they've actually split this forecast region into a south and a north part. And the reason for that is when we look at the map for the South Coast Inland, this is a very large region, north and south. And so anytime they refer to the north of the region, they're referring to the Duffy Lake area. And anytime they're referring to the south of the region, they're referring to the Coquihalla area. Now, there are limited observations that come out of Manning Park. And so it's important to recognize that most of the time they're not referring to Manning unless they specifically state that. Now, other forecast regions are very large, and the Sea to Sky is a great example of this, but the vast majority of users are along the highway and really around the Whistler area, and the vast majority of our observations are in that area as well. Now, it's important to recognize that if you are going to other areas within this region, let's say accessing these areas via helicopter or a snowmobile, you might be getting away from the accuracy of the bulletin. And again, the same is true for the South Coast region. Most of our field observations are coming out of the North Shore Mountains. If you're using these areas on the Sunshine Coast or out in the Fraser Valley, the accuracy again might not be there. And the next thing on the details tab is the weather summary. This is one of the better weather forecasts for our mountains. It gives us a 3-day outlook. Other resources that you can use is snowforecast.com. If you're going to an area that's adjacent to a ski resort, then you can search for the weather at that ski resort. And if you're going to an area that isn't adjacent to a ski resort, you can use their sister website, mountainforecast.com. Now, it's important to recognize that these forecasts are a little bit more algorithm based, and as we get further along, they're not going to be as accurate, which is true for all weather forecasts. Once again, the most accurate weather forecast that you're going to get is the one that's on Avalanche.ca. One key piece of information that I take out of this bulletin is freezing levels. Those of you who are familiar with skiing on the North Shore, you might already be familiar with freezing levels. If you're not, they're a very important detail to pay attention to. On the North Shore Mountains, Cypress and Seymour, their parking lots are located at about 1,000 meters. So if we're looking at a freezing level that's at 500 or 700 meters, it's safe to assume that it's going to be snowing on those ski resorts. Now, if we're looking at a freezing level of anywhere from 900 to 1,000 meters, we might be dealing with wet snow at 1,000 meters. And if we're looking at a freezing level that's above that, let's say 1,100 or 1,200 meters, there's a good chance that we might be starting to see the R word, rain, especially at the lower elevations at the bottom, at the parking lot elevations. Other great resources for weather are using ski resort webcams, as well as webcams from highways. And the last thing on here is the confidence. And it's important to recognize that this is the forecaster's confidence in the bulletin. And they've given us a reason for that. Right now, it's due to the limited number of field observations. Other reasons why confidence might be low is because, and again, it's important to recognize that the avalanche forecast is based off of a weather forecast. And so if the weather forecast is wrong, the avalanche forecast can be wrong as well. So now that you understand how the bulletin works, check out the bulletin at Avalanche.ca or download the Avalanche Canada app and have a look at what current conditions are